All right, hello and welcome everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're joining us from. My name is Chris Lyon. I'm a technical sales representative with Prolon, and we would like to welcome you to Prolon this morning. Encourage you to take note of my email address if you want to reach out with any questions or anything you think of later, application opportunities. Today's overview is going to be very basic. I'm not going to be getting into very technical information. Basically, we're approaching this more from the standpoint of the audience is building owners who might be interested in purchasing Prolon to control their building. So without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and get into it and answer the most basic of questions. What is Prolon? Okay, Prolon is a control system manufacturer. Specifically, we are manufacturing application-specific controllers for light commercial, small to medium-size buildings. Okay, typically speaking, 50,000 square foot buildings and smaller. When we say application-specific, that means when the controller comes out of the box, it already has a program in it ready to run a heating and cooling system or to run boilers or some specific piece of equipment within your building. We manufacture configurable systems. Now, what this means, because we're doing the application specific and configurable, we have done the programming for you, okay? So you don't have any code to write. You don't need to know how to program the computer to get it to do what you want to do. We've done that for you, and we've reduced it down to fields that you can adjust that mean something to you. Okay, we are by no means new kid on the block. We've been around for 23 years in the industry since 1998. So we have all these other control systems out there. Why was Prolon developed? Well, this light commercial market has been overlooked by many of the control system manufacturers for quite some time. We do have the ability to go with connected thermostats, but basically it's a thermostat that you can use your phone as a remote control for. You're really not going to be doing much for operating any kind of a light commercial building. Okay, if you want to get into a full direct digital control system, there's quite a bit of expense. There's specialized training just to learn how to program it. And then we get into some really fun stuff with DDC. Many of these systems are built around recurring revenue with ongoing fees. So how can they keep getting in your pockets? Even after you've bought the product, how can they keep finding ways to take your money? One of the things that happens with these protected products, as we call them, the whole purpose of a protected product structure is to limit customer choice, okay? Contractors will pay a fee to be part of the special club. Well, now they're going to need to recuperate those fees. But they get an exclusive territory. And well, if you want this control system in this area, this is your only choice of contractor. And maybe you do or don't like that contractor. Okay, so it's not really looking out for the end user in this. Couple other fun things. We have planned obsolescence and no backward compatibility. Here's the new latest and greatest control system. Well, does this new one work with the old one that I already have? Well, of course not. And eventually we're going to end up in a situation where we have to have the conversation about, I'm sorry, we can't get parts for your system anymore. We're going to have to tear everything out and start over again. I have actually seen customers put in a control system, and absolutely no joke, 2 years later, the control system they installed is declared end of life, and it's on its way out the door already. And here they just bought this brand new system. Okay, so why shouldn't you get a custom control system? Most commercial projects don't need a full-blown building automation setup, okay? So the custom programming is going to be very expensive, and the capabilities will far exceed what you truly need. Now, I'm not saying that full DDC, the custom systems don't have a place. They definitely have a place. There's situations that they fit in very well. But the majority of the time, a light system is going to meet the needs for you, okay? We had the conversation with the obsolete technology, outdated systems, no support. Business owners, a lot of times they get frustrations with control contractors where maybe that contractor isn't taking as good a care of them as they feel they should, and they want to take their business elsewhere, but they can't because no one else can access the system. If they do call in another contractor that's not part of the special club, that contractor can't get access to repair parts. They're fumbling in the system because they don't have any training. They can't get training even if they want it. Okay, so why choose Prolon? Light commercial controls fit 80% or more of the market needs. Okay, 80% of what we consider commercial out there is really light commercial. Okay, because of that, we're not getting into super fancy complex systems. The general operation and function of the equipment is known. We know how a heating system works, how a cooling system works, how boilers and chillers, all that works. So we can pre-program the sequences and just have minor tweaks that are set up out in the field by the installing contractor. Okay, Prolon is looking out for the ultimate customer, which is the guy that's writing the check where we get installed. Okay, so we intentionally, for those 23 years we've been in business, we intentionally engineer backward and forward compatibility across all generations of controllers. We have controllers that you can no longer purchase. Okay, but if one of those controllers fails, one of our current generation controllers can go in and new can work with the old can talk to the new. An absolute worst case scenario, it is a software update, okay? Any contractor is welcome to sell, install, and service Prolon, even if they haven't heard of Prolon. Get them in touch with us, we'll get them up on their training, okay? And then providing what mechanical contractors want, they want to be able to support their customers, okay? And then a huge one is quality tech support. Anytime a contractor calls Prolon, they are speaking with a technician that actually understands the software, never anybody in some foreign country reading off of a script. So, and the amazing thing, we've actually figured out, unlike some other companies out there, that when a technician calls the tech support line, most of the time they're in the field in front of a problem, and they would like an answer now, if possible. And so we do everything humanly possible to answer those calls as quickly as they come in and be there for our customers rather than putting them off for a few days. Okay. So let's talk about some places Prolon can go in. This is just the beginning of the list, but when we're thinking light commercial, banks, shopping centers, restaurants, manufacturing facilities, we get prospective tenant space, people that pop up the shell of a building and then put the for lease sign out front and wait for someone to want to do a tenant improvement and move in. Excellent use for Prolon because of the flexibility and how Prolon can be repurposed, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Okay, so the applications that we can go into, we're going to be good for just your conventional heating and cooling equipment, rooftop units, split systems, heat pumps. We can do zoning systems, both VAV and VVT. If you're not familiar with those terms, basically just if you have dampers in your ductwork to kind of subdivide your system. We can get into boilers, chillers, cooling towers, makeup air units, heat recovery and energy recovery ventilators, fan coil units, unit ventilators, and then one of the big things, it seems like every single one of these projects we do, there is some sort of little valve or damper or fan or something that it just doesn't fit into this predefined box that we have set up for all these other controllers. Remember, we talked about the application specific and the pre-programming. Well, we have a side loop controller that we can kind of build our own logic in to pick up these little side loops. Okay, everything is going to be tied together with the free software and applications. Okay, so one thing I do really want to drive home with Prolon is literally the only expense to Prolon is the upfront initial purchase of the hardware. Okay, after that, we do not charge for software. We do not charge for software updates. Okay, we do not charge for tech support. You do not have to have some sort of a maintenance agreement with us or some sort of subscription. Okay, everything about Prolon is free after the initial purchase. Okay, and that's all the way back through the software. Talking about how we're going to keep our spaces comfortable. So let's look at our zone comfort control here. Now, generally speaking, we're talking 30-ton units and smaller. I want to really stress that this is by no means a limit. I have gone all the way up to 100-ton units. We just have to have some conversation about what's going to be expected on both sides. So just because you're over 30 tons, I don't want you to think that Prolon is out, okay? We can operate outside air dampers for free cooling. We can use those same dampers for demand-controlled ventilation into a space. When you have a bunch of people in there breathing out CO2, we can flush that out. We can adapt to all types of zoning systems on here. If we're dealing with a zoning system, another consideration is that we have to manage the air pressure inside the ductwork as more zones are opening and closing and all that. We can handle that for you. Okay, we can humidify, dehumidify, whether we do that with dedicated equipment or if we use the existing HVAC system to maybe run both a heating and a cooling call at the same time. Yeah, I know that doesn't sound very efficient, but the whole purpose of that is getting humidity out of the air. Okay, if we head over to boilers, chillers, and cooling towers, we can automatically rotate our pumps, boilers, chillers, all that to equalize the wear on the equipment. Okay, we don't want pump number one to just run and run and run for 5 years, and then all of a sudden it's worn out, and pump number two is brand spanking new because it's never turned, or maybe it's seized up because it's never been used. Okay, we can monitor equipment for failure status and rotate away from that. So again, like with those pumps, pump one start. Oh, we didn't see the pump one actually turned on. Well, let's go to pump two. Okay, just to keep things moving. We can manage water pressure within the system for efficiency. We do have multiple efficiency strategies to choose from, whether that is resetting the temperature on a hot water loop or resetting the supply air temperature. Okay, if it's not super hot outside, why do I need to send super cold air down the duct? Well, maybe I don't, and we can adjust that to maximize both comfort and efficiency. Okay, we do have integrated safety sequences to protect equipment. If you're dealing with water-cooled chillers, you know, that's dependent on other equipment that the chiller doesn't have control over. If that water starts coming in too hot because something else has failed, we can shut things down or stage things back just to protect the very expensive equipment so we don't do damage. Okay, we can manage heat pumps and fan coil units. We have both air source and water source heat pumps that we can manage. We have efficiency strategies to limit the use of auxiliary heat. So if it's warm outside, we've got an air source unit and you know, there's plenty of heat available for us to bring in. Don't allow the electric elements to turn on. If we're dealing with water source units, okay, there is the unfortunate possibility of a leak. Okay, we have a water leak alarm input. Okay, with hydronic units where we're pumping either hot water or cold water through the system, and then we blow a fan over a coil that water flows through. Okay, we have 2-pipe systems, 4-pipe systems. Again, if you're not familiar with those, you know, we'll be happy to help you figure out what you have. Unit ventilators. We can do multiple fan speed control on these. We have electric supplemental heat options on this. And again, of course, we're dealing with water on hydronic units. We do have that water leak alarm input on that controller as well. And last year, but very much not least, I wanted to just kind of give some ideas on this Flexio controller, these side loops of things that we could possibly do with the Flexio controller. Okay, so we could use this to monitor a server room, or we have restaurants that use it for monitoring walk-in coolers, freezers, reach-ins, just keeping tabs on stuff so that they can get an email alert or do trend logging to make sure that everything is staying at the temperature it's supposed to be at. We can manage building or room pressure. We have surgical centers that pressurize their surgery suites with clean filtered air. You open a door, dirty air can't come in through the door because we've got clean filtered air pushing out. We can manage that here. We have grow facilities that are managing CO2, whether they are bringing in literally bottled CO2 and controlling the flow in to maintain a concentration, exhaust fans for removing that. We can both monitor and control that. We can manage the circulation of building water. Okay, so we've got the pumps sending that hot water or cold water, or maybe it's more of a neutral for heat pumps out to the building. We can manage the pressure and speed up and slow down pumps to maintain efficiency on that. We could use it as a lighting controller, operating various lighting, whether it's inside, outside, security. We can have it following a schedule. We can give an override button on the wall for someone to come in and push that button outside of the schedule. We've used the Flexio for parking garage ventilation control. All we need is sensors that can sense what we need to detect, whether it's carbon monoxide, whether it's explosive gases, that kind of stuff. A Flexio can be used as an expansion unit to add capability to other Prolon controllers. So I could partner this with a rooftop controller, and it actually gives me all of the additional outputs for, say, like a hot deck, cold deck unit, or a multi-zone unit, where we at times need to heat and cool simultaneously with different points, and we've got two separate air streams leaving the unit. Okay, so we can add that. We've done two-pipe hydronic system automatic changeover. So on a two-pipe system, you've got boilers and you've got chillers, but only one or the other runs at any given time. And we have to decide based on, is it hot out, is it cold out, what do we need? Do we need hot water or cold water? And we can do the changeover between those automatically. And of course, anything else that needs to be on an automatic schedule. We actually had somebody use this as an irrigation sprinkler timer once. Now, was that the best choice? Maybe not. I think they were thinking more along the lines of can we rather than should we, but they were able to pull it off and it worked for them. Okay, to talk a little bit about some of our controllers, I'm not going to get deep into the technical capabilities, but we do have like a zone damper controller. This has a built-in Belimo actuator. We partner with Belimo, which is one of the most respected names in the actuator world. So we're not off trying to build our own little actuator. We let somebody who knows what they're doing do that, and we use their product. We've got some inputs and outputs on this controller so that we can do more than just spin a damper back and forth, and we can run a complete system there. We have our T1100. This is just a basic little, the hanging gas heater back in the warehouse, or a baseboard in a stairwell, exhaust fan in a mechanical room. Just kind of a little one-off that we need some control for, but nothing dramatic. When we're dealing with our inputs and outputs, we have two main hardware platforms. We have a C1050 and an M2000. Now, I'm really not going to get into the technical capabilities of this, but when we talk about this, all we're talking is hardware. What makes the controller into the controller is the software that we put in it. And because we reuse the same hardware over and over, and all that changes is the software, say if you remodel the building and you had an M2000 rooftop unit for a zone system, and it's like, well, we're taking that out and we don't need that anymore, but I really need a single zone system in here. We can reprogram that controller. Your contractor can do that in the field with the software that they already have available to them. So it's not like, well, this controller is junk, we got to throw it out and go buy something new. No, we'll just repurpose it and continue on down the road. An assortment of wall modules to go with our controllers. We've got everything from the T200 on the right, where we just kind of keep it simple with a set point knob and an override button, all the way up to the T1000, where we get rid of all the moving parts and it's just a touchpad reminiscent of the old iPods that you glide your finger around on. They are a communicating controller, or communicating to the controller that they are connected. And one of the advantages there is, say, if you apply a calibration, whether you think something is actually out of calibration, or occasionally we have those people that we have to feed them certain information to make them happy. If you apply a calibration, it will show on the screen on this. Several color combinations available: white cases, black cases, white labels, gray labels. We can put them together in any combination on any of those. That won't affect the price. The price is going to be based on the hardware version you choose. So some of our energy savings and safety sequences, we can limit the available set points that they can adjust on the wall modules. So yeah, just because there's a sticker that says from 59 to 86 on there, well, we're going to choke that down and they get, say, 68 to 73. Okay, and that's all in the software. They can't override that. We can verify operation of certain critical components with proofs. Like we want to make sure that our fan is running in the equipment before we start trying to heat or cool, or we want to make sure that pumps are turned on before we try to fire boilers or chillers. So we're going to verify that operation. We can also apply high and low temperature limits if stuff starts getting too warm or too cold, where we could be approaching the point of doing some damage. We can shut stuff down and back things off. Efficiency, outside air temperature lockouts. Don't heat when it's hot out. Don't cool when it's cold. Okay, just some stuff that someone comes in, cranks the wall module the wrong way, says, oh, I need to cool all of a sudden. Wait a minute, it's too cold outside. I can't turn the cooling on. Okay, we can reset our set points based on various criteria, and there's more than one way we can do this, but just some examples. Some basic examples would be like with your boilers. As we get colder outside, we're going to turn the loop temperature up and make it hotter. Or with your VAV zone system that has the central air handler, as the temperature goes up outside, we're going to turn the supply air temperature down and send colder air to the zone so they have more cooling capacity. Okay, we can temper fresh air in the wintertime. So back to like that demand controlled ventilation, say, perfect example is like a church Sunday morning in the middle of January. Everybody's in there breathing out their CO2. We start opening the dampers, but we're bringing in really cold air. Well, we can bring on some heat to just take the chill off of that air. Okay, we can restart the fan during periods of extreme outdoor temperatures. If it's super hot or super cold outside, we're going to turn the fan on just to keep things moving, make sure we're not getting any cold spots in the corners, possibility of freezing, that kind of stuff. We have emergency shutdowns to limit runaway situations. Say again, back to that situation, demand controlled ventilation. We open the damper, bringing stuff in, then something decides to break, and now we can't physically close the damper, and the heat's gone out, and the boiler's not running, so we can't heat the air. Well, we can identify that, hey, we've lost control of this unit. We need to shut everything down to protect the building. One very nice thing with Prolon is that when we're dealing with other sensors, okay, it doesn't matter duct temperature, duct pressure, CO2, humidity, any of these other sensors, we use industry standard signals. Okay, so you do not have to special order in the Prolon specific sensor because that's the only one that will work with the Prolon system. You can go get anybody's sensor and put it on, and as long as it meets the universal signal criteria that we have, which, you know, temperature is going to be a 10K type 3, or duct pressure is going to be a 0 to 5 or a 1 to 5 volt DC signal. These are industry standards. You can find these sensors everywhere. Okay, so retrofit situations, this is really comes to be a problem a lot of times because we have to tear everything out and start all over. Well, what are we going to do while we have nothing? A unique advantage to Prolon is that every single controller I have can operate completely standalone or networked. And you don't have to choose that up front. We can make a transition along the way. So say, here's my building where I had one zone fail, and I decide I want to start transitioning to Prolon. So I've got my zone controller in here. We've taken that space over. Eventually, I have a few other zones fail, and we decide, you know what? We really should make this a complete system. Okay, so all we do now is we're going to add the master controller that's going to take over the air source and tie everything together. We run our communication cable, and now we have a complete system. We've got the zones talking to the rooftop, rooftop talking to the zones, everybody's sharing information, and we're getting our max efficiency. Okay, now, of course, when we talk about control systems, what does everybody really want in this? Remote access. Okay, so for remote access, we're going to add the network controller, plug that into the internet, and using our free cloud service we'll talk about in just a minute, you have secure remote access back into your building from anywhere you can get an internet connection. Okay, and we're not talking about just one system here. We can do multiple systems in a building, all the way up to a complete total of 127 devices. So that's going to fit in this light commercial realm we've been talking about very well. It is very rare that we go over 100 devices. Very, very rare. Okay, so let's take a look at this network controller real quick and see what it brings to the table. It's going to provide a single network connection point. I can actually walk up to this guy with a USB cable, plug my computer in, and bam, we're good to go. We have easy remote access with free and secure cloud communication service. So this is allowing you to access your system from anywhere in the world. You can get a network connection. There are no subscription fees. Remember, I said the only expense is the upfront initial purchase of Prolon. So you're not going to have to put in a credit card signing up for the cloud or anything there. You have 16 weekly routines, so 16 schedules, and 16 holiday schedules. So if you're dealing with a multi-occupancy building, we've got the doctor's office over here. They can have their schedules, their holidays. Then we have a pharmacy over here. They can have their schedules, their holidays. You know, so that can come in real handy as you have different zones, different schedules throughout a building. You only have one location to go. You know, so the main office schedule is controlling the 4 units that are on the main office. When that schedule needs to change, you go change the one schedule, and bam, all 4 of those units are following the new schedule. I had a place that I took care of for a while that had 22 independent thermostats throughout the building. I had to walk through twice a year and make sure that everything was in sync, and had anybody fiddled with anything, you know, it would have been much more in their interest to install a system like this to have it all tied back to one location. Also, because the network controller ties the system together, we are allowed to do single outside air temperature and single supply water temperature sensors sharing across the network. Okay, so we can, that saves us on having to put in outside air temperature sensors on every single unit. We can distribute that through the network. And the same thing with the water supply. We can get it from boilers, from chillers. We could get it out of one of those Flexios. and say, hey, here, all these units that are using water to heat and cool with, here's the temperature that is coming to you, okay? Also, the NC2000, we gain the ability to do email alerts, okay? Up to 200 separate conditions. So we can do email alerts or push notifications if you have our application on your smart device, whether Apple or Android. Okay, we can take multiple conditions and compare them and say, well, if this, and maybe even also this are all true, then I want to know about it, okay? We can also keep records. And there's a slot for an SD card on here where you can do data logging. You can say, well, I want you to watch this sensor, and every 5 minutes, I want you to make note of what is the temperature of that sensor. Again, back to like surgical suites, we have several medical facilities, a few hospitals that are using this data logging for their state records to prove that they're keeping their humidity, their temperature, everything in line with the state requirements. It provides their records, and it comes out in a nice Excel CSV file that they can store easily. Interacting with our controllers, you're going to use the Prolon Focus software, okay? Occasionally we get people that say, well, I don't want graphics. I don't want a front end. And usually their thought process on that is, well, graphics are expensive because I got to pay for someone to develop those, and I don't want to pay for that. Well, guess what? The graphics are already built. You don't need to worry about that. This is actually how you're going to interact with it on the configuration side if you're a technician, okay? And say if I go into this rooftop unit and say it is a cooling only rooftop unit, it does not have the capability of heating. If I turn off all of the possible heating outputs, that heating coil will disappear out of the graphics automatically. I don't have to do anything to edit that or change or delete stuff. It updates automatically. So that way you eliminate the confusion of having a customer looking at, well, it's cold in here, why isn't it heating? Not realizing that there is no heat to heat with. Okay, the software is available for both PC and Mac, available on our websites. We also have the applications available in the Apple and Android stores for your smart devices. Okay, again, all of that completely no charge. You are welcome to go to our website and download the software and play with it. Okay, and just kind of see how things work if you want to check things out. When you get into the software, you have easy identification of what's going on. If you see a red icon, you know that area is heating. A blue icon has a cooling demand and is trying to cool. A green icon, we're just moving air around, we're satisfied, but we're talking on the network, okay? So if you ever see one of those icons come up in the gray color, kind of like what it looks over where it says new system. If you see a gray icon, that means that controller's offline. It's not talking. We've got problems. So diagnostics simply just in opening the software, okay? You can easily access and manage multiple sites. I'll show you that here in the software demonstration that we're coming up to. So if you're dealing with multiple facilities, multiple sites across a region, a state, even clear across the US, you can organize all of your different locations easily, okay? If you have a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF, just a picture of, say maybe the blueprints for the building, we can actually import those in, and that blue background behind the icons can be replaced with a picture. And then we can drag the icons around and place them over the area that they serve. And then we can lock those icons in place so they can't be moved accidentally in the future. Okay, so just some other things to let you know what we offer. We do have a UL listed panel shop. So whether we're putting a controller in a pre-built panel just to have everything clean, professional, neat looking, we can put the network controller in a panel with a touch screen on it. Okay, we see this a lot now. Banks love this because banks, utilities, that They are absolutely paranoid about having something on their network. And even with all of our security, they're still not willing to take what they consider a risk. And that's fine. We can't blame them for that. There've been many reasons why they should be paranoid. But we can have this panel that still gives you access. You can walk up to the 10-inch touchscreen on the door and make adjustments in the system. We do not have to have an internet connection on that. It can operate completely standalone. Okay, so Prolon is looking pretty good to you. Where can I find Prolon? Well, we have a network of over 120 distribution locations across the US and Canada. We've got hundreds of contractors that are currently installing Prolon, and they're not just HVAC contractors. We do target the HVAC mechanical contractor, but we've got controls contractors, we've got plumbing, heating, we even just have basic electrical and even solar contractors out there that are putting in Prolon. Okay, so if you want, get a hold of us and we will help you get in touch with a contractor that installs Prolon. Or if you already have a preferred contractor, but they haven't heard of Prolon, have them reach out to us and we will get the ball rolling to get them trained and get them up to speed on Prolon. So just kind of to recap what we've been over, we have a simple, but it's reliable and highly capable. And when I say reliable, I have seen so many contractors that their take on Prolon is, you know what, if you just follow the instructions when you put it in, you follow handling the wire and how things need to be hooked up, it just straight works. There's no way around it. So it's very reliable, very capable, less expensive to purchase, install, and maintain. So when you start looking at the prices of controllers and you compare maybe the cost of a full DDC controller to the cost of a Prolon controller, well, a controller is kind of a controller. They've got the same basic function. They're going to possibly be about the same price, but you're also going to have all of that engineering that needs to go into the custom controller that isn't going to need to go into the Prolon controller. Okay, we're also never going to have to talk about the cost of software updates. I have actually converted buildings to Prolon over the cost of a control system software update. Okay, I went over several of our sequences, how we're trying to always balance comfort and efficiency. I think we have a very, very good balance there. We're always evolving. The new software updates, talked about how we use the same hardware and it's just the software that changes what the controller is. Well, we just rolled out a software update that added a new controller, okay, our fan coil unit. And if you had an application where, say, maybe you were using a different controller, but hey, this fan coil would really fit the bill, you can just reflash it. And now you have that fan coil unit that didn't used to exist before, okay? And I realize this last one, obsolescence free, is really dangerous to say when we're talking about the world of technology. Now, obviously, there's going to come a point where the C1050 or the VC2000 or the M2000 as an individual component, they will become obsolete because they will be replaced with something new and better and more capable and more powerful. But rest assured that that new product is going to work with the old product and not have any problems. Okay, so you will not have to have the conversation about let's tear everything out and start all over again. Okay, so I'm going to head over to our focus. Okay, we're on version 7.4. I've just opened and logged into my cloud account and told it I want to open a project. And this is our project organization. In here, you can choose how you want to sort by year, city, state, company, and then we can sort all of our different projects. I'm just going to go here to my test bench that happens to be right beside me, and we can open this up. And when we click that connect button, we get the green check mark. And you can see I already have some stuff set up. There's a few gray controllers on here. These aren't talking because these don't actually exist. So they are not communicating. That's that gray I was talking about. But if I want to see what's going on with my rooftop unit, here we just double click. And here's my rooftop unit. We can see, our outside air temperature. I have a series of input knobs here where I can fake values into this controller just for testing purposes. But we can see that our outside air damper is open. It's probably open trying to deal with this high carbon dioxide. Okay, so we can see what's going on with this. Maybe we don't have a VFD controlling the speed of our fan. It's real easy to change this. Maybe it's a bypass damper. We hit apply, and then guess what? That graphic, it's all good to go. Automatically changes. And I'll show you that heating. If I turn off all of my possible heating output, so everything is off here now, have a look at what happens. It's gone. Okay, the graphics adapted in there. This background here, this blue background, I told you we can put a new background on that. So if I just grab my picture here, I've got a little floor plan. I don't exactly like how that came in, so we can actually resize this, get my little red box here, drag it around, there we go. And now we can reposition all of our controllers wherever they are, but they still kind of take up quite a bit of space. So, well, if we just click on this address, we can actually shrink them down and put it right where the wall module is. And I don't even have to open it up to know that this address number 12 is cooling, because I can see the blue drop shadow under it. When I want, I can open this up and then double click to see what's going on in the controller. Okay, so right now I have a full cooling demand. My space temperature is 73, but I don't have air that's cool enough to really cool the space, so that's why my damper's closed. Okay, so we can create this floor plan graphic for any system that we want on here. So I can bring a separate floor plan graphic in at this level. I can go back to the global level, which is an overview of the entire building, and have a graphic there. So this would be just kind of the systems throughout the building. Double click on the system, and here's the detail of the area that it serves. Some other benefits with Prolon, you can go under your project and you can see who has been messing with what. There's an access log, so people are leaving fingerprints. One of the problems we've seen is control system, something starts working weird, and it's like, well, it really looks like something was changed here. Well, who did it? Wasn't me. Well, I'm sorry, the access log has determined that was a lie. So there's an option there. We can choose who gets to access the system and what level of access they have. We have the ability to take a snapshot. So once the contractor is all satisfied with the commissioning of the system, we're good to go. That snapshot is going to be a freeze frame of every single controller in the entire network as it sits exactly then. And we can actually use that as a restore point, if you will. Say if something gets screwed up in the future, somebody changes something and doesn't know what they did, doesn't know how they made it stop working, we can use that as a restore point. There's even the ability to leave notes in here. So if there's something going on in the system, we can say, hey, okay, RTU number 3, second stage compressor shorted to ground, customer declined repairs. Okay, so we've got notes in there, what's going on, so when someone else shows up, they can check it out and already have an idea of the history of the system. All different ways that you can make use of that. Setting up email alerts is really easy in our network controller. I want an email alert, I just come down here to this alert section and I say, well, add, and I want to know if, say, this rooftop, we can find if cooling stage is on for more than 2 hours. So if we get 2 hours of runtime on this, where it just runs for 2 hours continuously, it will send an email alert saying, hey, maybe is something up? Do we have a problem? There's all different ways that we can put these together. We can monitor communication. You know, do we suspect that we're having problems communicating with something? We can say, well, if the supplier temperature gets below a certain amount where maybe we're now in danger of freezing. Of course, we have programs within the controller that are going to resolve that for us automatically so we don't actually freeze, but we can receive email alerts that we have a problem or that something shut down in there. If you want to set up your data logging, real easy again here. I've got some logs going, and we can choose how often do we want to log. Do we want to log every so many seconds, minutes, hours? We can also log based on a change of value. So I've got to stop recording here in order to edit this. But say if I want to see, well, every time Bob's office damper position changes by 10%, okay? So it's fairly intuitive in how to set this up. You know, going to be easy to use for the building owners. The cloud communication, the contractor will set that up, and it's actually real easy. I'm just going to change this over and choose cloud. Choose cloud, save, and then I can connect. It's going to take just a second. I get my green check mark. And here now I am actually going out from my computer to our secure cloud servers, where I am leaving and retrieving messages for my network controller that is actively checking in with those same cloud servers. And I can see everything that's going on with this. Okay, so I don't have to know IP addresses. I don't need ports forwarded, you know, all this stuff that the IT department hates because they view it as a security risk, rightfully so. Anyhow, I do have one question here. Could a Prolon system be integrated or pushed up to an enterprise system if needed? So yes. We use Modbus RTU as our communication protocol, which is an open protocol, and we publish all of our registers. One of the things you'll find is things like Carrier or Train or these different manufacturers, they'll put these cards in that you can talk to. Okay, well, Prolon is never going to talk to another system. What we are going to do is we're going to interact in the same manner a thermostat would. We will give a signal that says, I would like first stage cooling. I would like the fan to run. I would like first and second stage heating. We're going to interact with it in that manner. Now, our registers for all of these Modbus RTU points are completely published. If it can be read from or written to, it is available to you, and we will actually hand those over to you. Now, we're not going to assist in the integration because if you're playing at that level, you should pretty much be able to play by yourself, but we will make all of our information available. And it's not like some of these where, you know, the manufacturer says, oh yeah, you can talk to that chiller, and well, you can talk to these 4 points, you know, when you need half a dozen or more. You know, everything in our controllers is available. You can bring Prolon into anything that can talk Modbus RTU, but you are not going to bring anything into Prolon. Prolon is only going to work with Prolon. So, and just a quick note with the whole Modbus RTU thing, we do have our VAV controllers only. So the VC2000 and the C1050 VAV can swing over to BACnet if needed. So let's see, could a Prolon system be integrated? Can you set up and program through the cloud server or only through the software? So the big key on this is that we have to claim the NC to the project. So now the cloud communication is always going to be just a little bit slower, but that is because it is secure. But if you were to say, fire up the NC on your bench, create your project, and claim that NC, then you could send that NC out into the field and have technicians installing out in the field while you're sitting back at the office and doing the configuration via the cloud. Yes, that is possible. The one thing that we do not recommend, very strongly do not recommend, is doing software updates via the cloud. So there have been a couple of situations with extreme remote locations where that has been forced, that they had to do it. Just plan that your update for a single controller could be pushing an hour for one controller. So anyhow, at this point, hopefully we have kind of let you know what Prolon is, what we have to offer, hopefully piqued your interest a little bit. If you want to get into things more technically and talk about details, capabilities like that, or just have some questions, encourage you to reach out. There's my email address. You're welcome to go check out our website and poke around there, where you can even download the Prolon Focus software. But I did want to kind of keep this more basic overview. So, technical stuff, please feel free to reach out. And with that, I believe we will go ahead and conclude. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here today. Appreciate that very much, and look forward to working with you on your future Prolon projects. Thank you.